Hello YouTube, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to talk about the tuning of the mandolin, a little bit of the nature of the fretboard, and how we can understand it to help us find chord structures and melodies. If you enjoy this content, please subscribe here for free on YouTube. I also have paid content on Patreon, and I'm giving away free mandolin lessons to paid subscribers. So check the description for that. Let's get started. So, where do we start? How is a mandolin tuned? The lowest note on the mandolin would be a G. Then the next open string would be a D. The next open string would be an A. The next open string would be an E. So what are the relationships between those notes? Meaning, what is a D to a G? G, A, B, C, D. It's its fifth, right? So, what is an A to a D? Also a fifth. What is an E to an A? Also a fifth. That makes the mandolin linear in nature. And what I mean by that is you can take one pattern, chord structure, and just move it around from string to string and get the harmony to what you're trying to play, for the most part. Simple harmonies. Let's start with a C chord. Most people know that this is going to be on the 5th fret of the G string, the 2nd fret of the D string, and the 3rd fret of the A string. If we needed a G chord, we could just think of this pattern moved a string closer to the floor. So, a 5th on the D, 2 on the A, 3 on the E. Same pattern. And just like the open strings, it just moved up a 5th, right? G to C is its 5th. Right? Now we could do that inversely as well. We could take C and we could go lower and we could go up a string and find its 4, right? That should unlock some doors for people, or at least it did for me, because that means that any melody line I play now, I can do the same thing. For example, let's arpeggiate through a C. If I need a G now, now F is a little more tricky because I can move that down, but I don't have the lower note to hit. So I do have to move the pattern here. But the concept still remains the same. So, we can do that in every key to find its harmony notes and harmony lines. That's a really big deal. If we're playing something in A, drop it down to the string below it for D, back to A, to E for the 5, boom. Just open up a huge amount of doors, so at least you know where you're moving stuff to. Now that should also open a discussion for what to play during each one of those chords. It would depend on how much time you have. There are different levels for me. Let's say a song has an A chord, a D chord, and an E chord. And it's doing just what I just did. Da 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 da. Da, 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 da. That's back to 1, then to 5. So what am I playing in the A, D, and E parts, the different parts? It would really determine at what tempo we're going to play that phrasing at, or that chord progression at, right? If it's a lot faster, I'm going to have a lot less time to voice each part, so I'm going to have to play a lot simpler. What that means is I think about each one of these in different levels, right? So the first level is very simple, all right? When you play an A chord, I'm going to play an A note. When you play a D chord, I'm going to play a D note. Right? That's very simple, but it's very important because I don't know if you've noticed, but I can then count out how many beats I have, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I know how much space I have in each chord, right? So really for me, it's either playing the chord structure, or if I'm just picking out a melody just randomly and it's just a fiddle tune melody, I want to see how much time I have, because that's going to determine what type of phrasing and what type of devices I can use within that time structure, right? So for then, let's move to the second level of this. The second level of this I call voice leading through arpeggios. I think that's a common term. That's not something I've coined or anything, but it's just not something that's talked about a lot in bluegrass music, but you've actually heard it quite a ton. If you listen to any type of Bill Monroe leads, he does a lot of... Right? A lot of that is just arpeggiating through the chord changes. So that would be the second level of soloing for me, right? Arpeggiating through chord changes. Again, I should have already done the single note phrasing, so I know how many beats I should be playing through. Right? That can get really monotonous. So there's things you can do, which I've talked about here on the channel, like inversions, inverting the voicing of that arpeggio so that you're not starting on the root of the arpeggio each time. Right? It's hard to do, but that's taking that even like, that's kind of 2B, right? Once you can do the arpeggiating, you need to then be able to invert some of them, create different inversions and different voicings of the arpeggio so that you can move differently through the chord structure, and that becomes actual voice leading, right? You're going to take the shortest distance between each arpeggio, which is usually just moving one semitone or something really simple like that. And from there, you should be able to start to hear the music, right? You should, with your solo, you want to be able to hear chord changes. You don't want to be able to get lost in your soloing. So the easiest way to start doing that is arpeggiating through chord changes. From there, you can take this to a pentatonic level, right? So pentatonic means 5 notes out of the scale. So which 5 notes? So if we have an A scale, if we have the arpeggio of that, the arpeggio would be the 1, 3, and 5. If we added the 2 and the 6 back, we now have a pentatonic scale, which, if you're familiar with bluegrass, that sounds like a G run. Right? So that's more of a guitar phrasing thing, but now you can think about chord changes with a pentatonic voicing in each one. But again, I would need more time to be able to pull that off. Chord changes that are quick aren't going to give me a lot of time to express all of that throughout the pentatonic scale. And then from there, you just have the major scale of each. Now, you're going to enter a level of modal music that is a whole different discussion because, you know, it's not just major scales of G, C, and D. The C scale and the D scale will have to fit still in that G scale. So what that means is if you take the G scale, which I've talked about this quite a bit on the channel here, so make sure you go watch those videos. But if you take an A major scale, we've been working in A, right? if you give each one of those chords harmony, meaning if you give each one of the notes in the major scale harmony, you get a diatonic scale. Now, that's a simple diatonic scale when it's only 3 notes. Once we add a 4-note chord structure to each one of those chords, it becomes a complex harmony scale. And so if you gamify that out, you'll have a G major, or sorry, an A major 7th, an A dominant, A minor 7, sorry, A minor 7, B minor 7, D major 7. So that's where the D major 7 extension comes into play, and you'll have an E dominant. Right? Which is just a flat 7. So those things are the final where you get to towards the end, and obviously there's much more to go once you get there to understand that there's hidden triads and extended chords and all that other stuff. So definitely something to start building upon, but we can work on it in this way and understand the nature of the mandolin, and it should be able to help you find some of this stuff as you go, right? So if you have a phrase that you know works in a certain chord and you need to move it, you just need to know the relationship between the 2 harmony chords, the 2 rhythmic chords underneath it. So if it's an A to a B minor, you can do things with the same phrasing and go from a major to a minor phrasing, and that you would take the A, that's an A major phrasing, and now if this was a B major phrasing, it would sound like this, right? But we need to flatten the 3rd to make it a B minor. So an A major to a B minor chord structure. So hopefully that starts to open your mind to a little bit of how the fretboard works, how we can find some of this stuff, how we can easily access it, especially if it's in just the normal bluegrass 1-4-5 chords. If you've got something that works, move it around. A lot of this stuff is closed positioned anyway. So yeah, I hope this helps, and see you guys at the next video. Thanks for watching.